Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, I'm Alicia. I own a crochet boutique called Awestruck Crochet, and today I wanted to just chat with you. So grab your crochet stuff and let's be productive while you listen to me chat. I thought that we would go over some things from 2024 and then let you know my goals and stuff for 2025. We are about a week into the 2025 year, and that is so crazy to start all over again, but I'm super excited to see what this small business brings for me and my family. And so I have my notebook here. I jotted down some things that I wanted to chat with you guys about. Before the end of December, I had reached out onto my Instagram story and I had asked what things you wanted me to talk about, what things that you were interested in listening to me or wanting to know more about. And so I thought I would share with you some of the most requested topics. Many of you had asked similar questions or pertain to a certain topic, and so part of it goes with 2024, and so I thought I would just kind of recap with you a little bit on how it went and some of the things that I learned from 2024 with this small business and things that I will be doing in 2025. So one of the first questions that I got was, what were my favorite patterns of 2025? This one was really hard to pick because there was so many cool patterns to pick from. So in 2023, I had first started amigurumi and doing these snugglers, and it wasn't until I think maybe August or September when I started doing the snugglers in 2023. And so last year was my full year of doing snugglers, doing more amigurumi and working on things like that. So I have 7 top favorite patterns, and these are in no particular order. These were just patterns that were constantly on my hook, with me either just loving the pattern or constantly restocking for markets because they were a really big seller. And here is the 7. Some of them are a little bit more broad because there is more things to it, but it's still the idea that counts. So one of them is obviously Darby the Buck from BK Crochet. That deer was on my hook constantly after she released it towards the end of the year. Yeah, it was definitely in the fall when she released the pattern and I started bringing it to my markets. I sold 11 of those deer within a couple of months, and so it was definitely a big seller for sure. It was always something that constantly sold out each time that I brought it or people would ask me about, and that pattern is just so fun and so unique. And so definitely BK's Crochet's Buck pattern is one of the top 7. The other crochet pattern that I absolutely loved ended up being the Hatching Chicks by Louie & Berg. A lot of people think that I'm using the Oak and Marlowe baby chick, and although I do have that pattern, I wanted something a little bit bigger, and so when I found Louie & Berg's Hatching Chick, I knew that that's the one that I wanted to crochet. It was actually supposed to just be a seasonal product for my spring markets, and everyone loved it so much that I ended up keeping it around for market after market, and it would sell out every single time. So if you don't have that Hatching Chick pattern, you need to grab it. It's so cute, so fun. It's very interactive because the chick comes out of the egg opens and closes. Even adults love that chick pattern. I had lots of shoppers come to buy just the Hatching Chick for themselves or for a family member versus like a child or a teenager, so it was definitely one to keep around. So number 3 on my list is the Cuddle Critters from Mama Makes Yarn. Rachel released her Farm Cuddle Critters last year, I think either in January or February, and I was able to pattern test them for her. And then she released the Woodland Cuddle Critters, and they are such a big hit. I recently got asked if I insert the little rattle sound at my markets, and I do not because that kind of limits who's able to shop for them, and in my markets for 2024, I had a variety of ages shopping for those Cuddle Critters. Several people would shop for like older children, like teenagers. I had several teenagers buy for their room, and they would even tell me their plans on how to use it in their room, like where they plan on putting it as decoration in their room, or things that they were interested in and why they purchased it, which I thought was really neat. And so I decided to not put the insert rattles in there, just so that it still allowed the opportunity for anyone to purchase them if they were looking forward to purchase them. Number 4 on my list that was an absolute favorite was the Lovey from Classic Comfort Co. The actual Lovey is only 4 squares, but I ended up changing it to be like a more of a Lovey style blanket, and I used 9 squares instead of the 4. The pattern still worked out perfectly no matter me changing the square amount. I didn't do anything different. I just followed the pattern. Obviously I increased more for the border and kept going with that, but I didn't have to tweak anything with the pattern. I just made more squares, and then the border ended up fitting the size that I had. That little blanket was so sweet. It was one of my favorite things to make for the 2024 year. I got a lot of compliments on it when people came to shop. It did take a long time for it to sell because it was a higher priced item. That blanket took over 10 hours to crochet, and it actually used more yarn because the stitches are tiny and have a lot of detail for each of the granny squares. And so it was definitely a higher priced make, but everyone fell in love with it who came to look at markets for it. I loved it for some of my pictures, and so it did sell at the end of 2024 in my Etsy shop, and it was just such a bittersweet moment to send that blanket off. So it was definitely a very fun and sweet make. So if you don't have that pattern, it is the Lovey from Classic Comfort Co. Number 5 on my list was the Pipsqueak set from Nicole at Indie Made. These Pipsqueak, oh my gosh, that is such a tongue twister. These Pipsqueak makes were really fun. They made the market prepping interesting and something different to offer, especially seasonally with her spooky Pipsqueaks and then the Christmas and the winter Pipsqueaks. A lot of people fell in love with them when I brought them to markets. They were one of the best sellers that I always had. And so she actually has a woodland set, and I haven't tried that, but her Pipsqueak sets, they are really cool, and they have a detail in them, but still also no sew. So if you don't have those patterns to add to your collection, look into it because they are super fun. Number 6 on my list was the Zoo Stampede from Christina at Handmade and Hugs. I pattern tested a lot of these Zoo Stampede animals, and they are absolutely precious. They were always one of the first ones to be picked when I brought them to markets, especially Elliot, the elephant. If you don't have Elliot, I can't speak highly of it enough. It is so sweet. It's like the sweetest pattern, along with Hildy Hippo and even River the Rhino. Those are my top 3 favorites. She did such a good job with them. They are no-sew as well. They're just so unique, and you can pick whether you want to make them a Lovey or a plushie. I decided to do plushies on them just because I already had several items in my shop that were similar to a Lovey style, and so I wanted to provide something different with the like plushie style. And really the pattern's the same on both of them. You just stuff the body versus leaving it flat if you wanted a Lovey. But you could use so many colors in all of them, and they're so fun. And all of the girls that also pattern tested, they also said that their Zoo Stampede animals were flying off the shelf. So you definitely need these patterns. Christina does an amazing job creating something so unique and so true to her. So grab those patterns if you don't already have them because they're pretty sweet, guys. The last pattern set on my list is the Bitty Animals from Raven Jade Co. Crystal did an amazing job creating all of these Bitty Animals. And they are so fun too, also unique and very true to her style of patterns. The animals that got picked up the most were Cookie the Cow and Royal the Horse. Those were the 2 top sellers in my market as well. I sold 14 of the cows, and she also didn't release that pattern until the summer. And so within 6 months of markets and everything and on my Etsy shop, I sold 14 of those cows for the rest of the year, which is so fun. But it was definitely a make that I always had on my hook, the cow and the horse. They are absolutely precious and sweet. She also has a bigger version of the cow and the horse if you wanted more of a plushy style versus a Lovey little style, but everyone loved that. Along with the cat was also really a good hit. Every time I brought the cat, it usually sold as well. And it was really sweet because with those bitty animals, I saw the most boys buy those crochet animals, and a lot of them picked up the animals and would purchase them with their own money, and they are a little bit more of a pricier make because they take a little bit more time. And so it was really fun to see boys shopping at my booth and enjoying what I make, and just picking things that they wanted for them and then paying with their own money. That was absolutely the sweetest to see. And also to keep encouraging you to use colors that could be for boys or girls, because boys do like crochet. You'd be honestly surprised how many boys came up into my booth, said and complimented the things that I made, were in complete all of the things that I had brought, and then even purchased some of those items. And so that was really neat. So if you're not currently offering things for boys, you're missing out, because that is definitely a target audience for crochet that a lot of people don't think about. They think mostly crochet is just for girls, and it's not. It's for the boys as well. Those were my top 7 patterns. Again, some of them were more broad because of like the Zoo Stampede, the Pipsqueaks, the Cuddle Critters. There's 2 kinds of those, and then the bitty animals. So that is why I kind of put it like that instead of just limiting just one of those animals. Then I got asked what was my favorite yarns that I used. The 2024 year would have also been the first year that I really tackled Bernat blanket yarn. I started to use it at the end of 2023, but 2024 was the year that I fully used Bernat blanket. When I first started, I was using a different variety of yarns. I started out with Himalaya Dolphin yarn, which is very similar to Parfait Chunky. And then I also got some of the Parfait Chunky just to see what the hype was with that. I dove into Home Slim Chenille and Sweet Snuggles Light. And so my absolute favorites from trying all of them was the Bernat blanket. I do still really enjoy Home Slim Chenille and Sweet Snuggles Light. I'll use those interchangeably, and I also use them with my Bernat blanket yarns to give a little bit of a different texture if I'm looking for something else. But those are my favorite yarns to use. I have kind of gotten away from Parfait Chunky and Himalaya Dolphin. I don't like how thin they are. I do still have quite a bit though. I sold some of them last year when I was kind of going through some of my yarns to de-stash, but I still have quite a bit. So I think I'm going to try to get through some of the leftover, if not sell what's left, because it's not a full skein of yarn. I don't feel like I can really sell it, but I don't want to throw it away either. Like, that's still good yarn, and I can use it for the small things like whales and sharks and octopus and stuff. So that is what I have come to for 2024. My favorite yarn was the blanket yarn. And then I got asked my favorite color combos and what were my favorite kinds, like I guess my favorite colors within blanket yarn. I started being drawn to the natural colors and the natural color combos. So a real true brown horse, a classic white and black cow, or an off-white and black cow. I just really was more drawn to that style and how I wanted things to look for my brand and my booth. Especially when I put things together. Like, I still loved using fun colors for certain things, such as like a hippo that was the moss color with bright blue toes. That was really fun, but I also really just enjoy a solid gray hippo. That is kind of what my heart leans to more of. So anything that has a natural color combo to it. I also really loved anything that was pink. Obviously, my branding colors are pink and a mustard yellow, and so anytime that I can incorporate pink, that is what I look for. I love the color pink. I loved finding a variety of pinks with the Bernat blankets, but I also loved finding a variety of pinks in the Premier Basic Chenille yarn. And then also my favorite Bernat blanket was the Tweeds collection. It was my favorite. I always kept it on stock, especially ivory tweed. It has my whole heart. I just love the way it looks, especially on chickens. Anything natural looking. I enjoyed the color sandy tweed for like my foxes, and woodland tweed again for chickens. It's just such a fun blanket yarn to use that still brings that natural color combo, while also providing something new and different. And so that's what I leaned on the most this year. So the other yarn that I also really started to enjoy in the 2024 year was Premier Basic Chenille yarn. This yarn is a little confusing with the name because it makes it seem like it's a chenille slick yarn. However, it's very much not. It's a blanket style yarn. It has the most prettiest colors with caramel and rust. The black is really pretty. The white is just a nice traditional white. Let's see here. Blush is really pretty. Bubblegum, hibiscus, all of those pinks are super pretty. Caribbean is one of the bright blues that I really enjoyed, especially for summer makes. That was really such a fun pop of color to use. And so I use that also interchangeably with my Bernat blanket yarn. You can't even tell the difference between which one is which if you use both of them together. It doesn't stick out where it's like, oh, that's clearly something different. It blends right in, and the texture is really nice as well. So that is another yarn that I fell in love with for the 2024 year. The next question I got asked was, what were some lessons that I learned in 2024 and what would I change in 2025? I think my biggest one was is to listen to your body, take breaks when you need to, and set boundaries to limit yourself from burnout. I know so many makers who got burnt out last year. It's kind of inevitable to not be burnt out, especially when you're constantly go, go, go in the market season and prepping, and then also creating content and creating like makes for your Etsy shop. It gets a little exhausting, but I think setting those boundaries really help, and not to overlay between like life and crochet, because crochet is a business. I treat it like a business. Obviously I will crochet when the kids are playing or crochet when they're napping or sleeping, but I think setting a point to like not respond to messages at a certain time, very similar to like the teacher lifestyle. You have to cut off work and home life in order to have a healthy balance, because if you constantly overlap them with one another, you're going to feel burnt out very quickly. You need to give your body time to rest. If you don't feel like crocheting, don't crochet, because if you force yourself to crochet, you're not going to crochet what you want to crochet, and you're going to find burnout much faster. I also would say to just crochet what you want to crochet, or at least try new patterns that you're interested in, and not things that you're like, I can't crochet that because this is due. Don't do that to yourself. Crochet is such a neat hobby that is made with our own two hands, that I feel like if we don't crochet the things that we want to crochet, and we only crochet things that we have to crochet, like I have to restock mallards, I have to restock the buck snuggler, I'm never going to get to what I wanted to crochet. And even though I love those patterns, eventually it's like, oh, another buck, oh my gosh, another mallard. Like, you have to crochet, take time to crochet what you want to, or try new patterns, because that's what's really going to keep you interested in crocheting, is trying new things, trying new patterns, trying a new skill, trying a new yarn brand. All of those things will make you so that you're not losing your Crojo and that you are still wanting to partake in crochet, even though it is your business. It can get hard to realize that sometimes they need to be separate, my business from my life. Even though they intertwine, I still have to create boundaries for myself so that I don't overdo it, and so that I'm still enjoying what I'm doing while I'm staying home with my littles, because that was the whole point of this, was to find something that I love to do while also staying home with my littles and taking care of them while I resign from teaching. So that was one of the lessons that I learned. The second thing that I learned based on markets is that I did get this a few times, and not anyone who was ever mean, but they just expected that the price on the tag was the price on the tag. So if something was $12, they were ready with $12 at the checkout. And so I'd have to say, oh, just a second, let me figure out what your total is after sales tax. And they were all very understanding about it. I didn't ever have problems, except for like one of my second to last markets. Someone was like, do you have to collect sales tax? And I do. And so I said, unfortunately, I do. This is a small business. I have an LLC. I do taxes. And if I don't charge you sales tax, then that sales tax is still there, and the sales tax will come out of the cost. So it was for like a scrunchie. The sales tax was like 25 cents, 38 cents, something like that. And so if I don't charge the sales tax, my sales tax is still in the cost. It's just now in my price. So instead of getting $4 for my handmade item, I'm really getting $3.60 for my handmade item. And so it's like, oh yeah, that's not that big of a deal, but that does add up, especially with the more items that you do. So whether you add on sales tax at the end or you put the sales tax into your price, sales tax is still there and it still has to be paid. So I just wanted this year to be very clear on my expectations for sales tax. And so on the back of my card, under price, I have still the price box. I should have brought a tag with me to show you. I also don't want this to keep going on. It's okay. Sorry, you're probably going to hear the heater, and that's what that sound is. But so in the price tag, I have the box for price, and then underneath I typed plus sales tax, because I do a variety of markets everywhere. The sales tax is different. I've gotten a comment about I could just charge the highest sales tax and then it's covered for the highest part. And then if it's less than the sales tax that I charge, then it's kind of like, oh, a bonus. But I don't enjoy that for my small business. I want it to be fair based on where I am selling at. And I don't know. I want it to be fair for everyone. That's exactly why I tie myself. And so I don't do that. I do add the sales tax into my Square app, and it calculates the sales tax for each transaction based on where I'm doing markets. Decided that the sales tax will be different depending on where I'm selling at, and that will be just fine for me. So that is something new that I'm going to do with the tags. Hopefully you didn't get lost in that whole tangent, but there will be a little print on the tag that says plus sales tax, so that everyone knows that the cost is not just the cost, that there will be a sales tax in addition to what they are purchasing from my market. I think that is all the recap for 2024. I did actually get one more question about maximizing my profits in the off season. I don't know if I can answer true to this right now at the beginning of January, because some of these things that I started doing for another stream of revenue for my small business didn't really take effect until like a couple months into 2024 or towards the end of 2024. So I don't know what that looks like yet for my small business. I do have a variety of streams of income for the small business. It all varies every single month. YouTube varies depending on how many watch hours I get and how many people watch the video. My Etsy shop varies month to month based on who is shopping and where they're coming from. I have a lot of people coming from my social media. I have a lot of people coming from YouTube. I have people that come from markets who come to shop because of my little small business card on the back, and that's linked there. So I have a variety of different people that come into shop, and so that sales always changes. Some months are way busier than others, and in the off season it was still pretty slow. I think I still was able to make a couple hundred from Etsy, but other months I was able to make like $500 from Etsy. So it all still kind of just varies. It's not consistent at all. I still think of this as a very much like a small business. It's not replacing my full income from teaching. Several months did, especially in the busier season like September, October, and November. That did replace my my teaching income, but those were really the only months that did replace it, and maybe in June because that was a really good market as well. But most of my income comes from my markets, and so if I'm not at a market, my income is not consistent versus me at a market. I hope that makes sense. But here are the streams of revenue for my small business that I started in the middle or towards the end of the 2024 year. So I can revisit them again in 2025 or at the end of 2025 and into 2026, which seems super weird to say. But so I opened up an Amazon storefront, which you have to make at least $100 each month to get paid. And I have still not gotten paid yet because I have not made $100 at all. I've made like $66 the last time I checked. And that has been going on since, I think it was March that I opened up my Amazon storefront, or maybe even the summer. I can't remember exactly, but I don't link enough things. Like, I always have my Amazon storefront linked. I have the things that I use at my markets and things that I use personally for my small business linked in my Amazon storefront. But you get a small commission off of the things that are purchased. And yeah, you have to make at least $100 in order to be paid, and I still have not been paid because I do not have $100 yet. So I can't really tell you how Amazon is working for me, my business, because it's not. I haven't made any money off of Amazon. So I released my first pattern at the end of January last year, and so now it's been a full year almost since I released my first pattern. I only released one pattern. It was a crochet Valentine bee, and that's brought in a little bit of money. And so I think that if you're doing patterns, that's a good stream of revenue to also have, because people are purchasing your patterns and you don't have to make anything, especially as you get further in and you have a lot of patterns to offer. But anyway, that's an additional amount of money that comes into my small business from the bee pattern. So patterns, I guess, is a stream of revenue. I just have one pattern though. So, the other stream of revenue that I started was YouTube. I got monetized back in March of 2024, but I didn't get paid until May, because you have to make at least $100 each month in order to get paid out. And so by the time I got monetized and by the time they were going to maybe pay me, because they pay you on the 20th, I hadn't reached $100 yet. And so I went through 2 months without being paid. I either got paid May 20th or June 20th of 2024 for my first paycheck on YouTube. But yes, so I do have that stream of income. Again, it's not very much. I think the highest that I got paid on YouTube was $400 from YouTube. And so that's a little inconsistent. It can vary very much, but you do have to at least make $100 in order for YouTube to pay you. Another stream of income that I have for my small business is I do have a boutique who carries some of the crochet items that I have. They only carry the small items though that I make, and so I go in and check every 1 to 2 months to see about restocking, because things don't move as quickly there, and it's just a small little section in the shop. And then I signed up in October or end of September, I think. I signed up for the Etsy Creator Co. I get a small commission for the links that I sent you on other links on Etsy. And so you get paid every 60 days based off of when that purchase went through. So I have random amounts of money coming in and out of my my banking because of that, because things that got purchased like 60 days ago, like it's not a full total of at the end of 60 days. It's 60 days from when that purchase got approved. So that makes the commission kind of really wonky and kind of very sporadic of when I'll get paid from Etsy Creator Co. But I do get a small commission with the links that I send out and you guys click and purchase from. So that's really helpful, especially I use that a lot on YouTube when you guys are asking about certain patterns and linking things. I will link it through my Etsy Creator Co to other patterns, and then I get a small commission off of doing that work for you. So that is the other stream of revenue. And then I also have Etsy as my stream of revenue and markets as my stream of revenue. I told you that Etsy kind of varies between month to month. It's not very consistent, and markets also vary off and on depending on how many markets I do for the season. January through February is my off season. My markets start in March. I have one in April. I won't have one in May. I will have one in June, and then July will be off. And I think August will be off because I don't think I plan on doing the August markets, but then they pick up again in September, October, November, and December. So September through December is my busy months, and that is when the paychecks for markets really come in and drive my business. So I think that is all of the streams of revenue that I currently have for the small business. And we'll just kind of see how it goes for the 2025 year and how things look at the end of this year with those streams of revenue. So now, 2025 year, someone asked me what are my goals for the 2025 year. I don't want to put a hefty amount of goals on myself. So my number one goal for the 2025 year is to stash bust my own yarn stock and not buy yarn. So I guess I should be a little bit more clear about the no buy yarn, because clearly I'm not going to not buy yarn. But really what I'm saying is I need to get through my yarn, and the stash that I currently have. I just did my yarn inventory, for my taxes and how much I used and how much is still remaining. I have so much yarn that I bought in 2024 that I haven't even touched. Like, it's a full skein of yarn and untouched, unbothered. The skeins that are like that are the fun colors, because I did lean more on neutral and natural colors of certain things that those colors didn't really fit into what I was wanting. Or I would buy a skein of yarn and see it used because of someone else's make, and I was like, oh, that's so cute, like I want that color yarn too in my stash. And then what came about is that I forgot what I was going to use it for, or when I got it I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to really work out, or I'll just use it another time. And then I never ended up reaching and grabbing for those yarns. So I really am going to try to stay away from colorful, especially the variegated yarn. I had a very hard time finding out like what I should use variegated yarn for. It seems like everyone can do something so cute with a variegated yarn, but then I get a variegated yarn and I'm like, what do I do with this? And so it ended up being like not touched. So I think for the 2024 or 2025 year, I'm really going to focus on just shopping my own yarn stash instead of constantly shopping online for yarn. I have so much yarn that I can get through if I just actually use the yarn that I have and think of new ways to use that yarn. But I'm not going to say that I'm not going to buy any yarn, because there are lots of colors that I go through that I need to use, and need to have in my stash. Caramel from Premier Basics yarn is a color that I always have on hand because I constantly use that yarn. Guys, when I did my yarn inventory, I bought like 40 or 45 skeins of the caramel brown. That is insane to me. It was over like 1,500 grams of yarn that I ended up using from them. And so yeah, it was insane how much yarn I picked up from them. I also always use birch. Birch is one of those yarns that I use for almost everything. It's used for the hatching chicks. It's used for the Mabel chickens. It's used for hair. It is used for hooves and the Cuddle Critters like the cows. It's a yarn that I am constantly using and I'm constantly reaching for. So birch, whites, blacks, grays, any of the tweed colors, because I constantly have those on my hook. They will be restocked. So I'm not going to say I'm not going to buy any yarn. I'm just going to be more conservative on the types of yarn that I buy and the types of colors that I buy. I'll restock when I need to restock. I'm not going to go without, but I'm not going to keep buying new fun variegated colors or bright colors because I more than likely won't reach for those now that I have accustomed to what I like in my business and what I want my things to look like. So that is the number one goal for 2025. The second thing that I would like to see in 2025 is my sales increase on social media. Me directing traffic to my Etsy shop. It's a lot, and so I do have a lot. I don't know. I just want my social media to still help makers, but also still drive sales. And I think what happened in 2024 was that it helped a ton of makers, but it wasn't really always driving the sales of what it should have been when I was doing that. So I want to see sales increase a little bit in Etsy, especially as we come up on the slow months, especially because like last year I did several markets even in my off season, such as like I had one in April. I actually had two in April. I had one in May. I did the one in June. I did one in August, and those this year are going to be part of my slower months because I'm not doing that market in May, and I'm not doing the market in August. And so I may see a little bit more of a decrease in sales, but I'm hoping that social media can help and increase those sales. And this kind of goes into the next topic of the goal that I want for 2025 is that I would really like to look into having my own website, because a lot of my sales are, I mean, I sell only on Etsy if I'm not doing markets or in the local shop boutique. Etsy fees are like crazy, guys. When I create the price for something to sell at markets and then I have to put it on Etsy, Etsy currently takes about 9.5% of sales, along with a transaction fee and I don't know. There's a processing fee, there's a transaction fee, there's a normal like 6.5% fee or something like that. And there's so many fees. And so the price on Etsy is always more expensive than it is to purchase directly from me, or even purchase like at markets because of those fees. And I absolutely hate that for you guys, because I know that not everyone can attend to a market and come see me. But it's like, then your only way of buying from me is through Etsy, and that has an increased cost because of the fees. And so I would really like to look into creating a website either with Shopify, or I think I heard that Square has their own website. What I do love about Etsy though is for tax purposes, they send out, they remit all of the sales tax. So I don't have to pay sales tax on top of my purchases or on top of the products that sold. But I don't know what that looks like for Shopify, and I don't know what that looks like for Square and what that would look like for sales tax for me as a business, and how to send in the sales taxes to those other states that purchased from my shop. So I need to do a little bit more research on those. I looked on my Etsy shop and I can see who comes to my shop based on like Etsy itself, from social media, and most of my sales are coming from social media. And so I just want to either figure out, one, how to increase sales just by the normal Etsy search and do that, or being able to afford to do a website, but we will see how that works out. But that is one of my goals, is to hopefully maybe try to get away from Etsy so I can get away from the fees and create something different. I think that that's definitely going to be a long-term goal. The last thing that I would like to see for 2025 is to find another local shop to put my handmade makes in. I would like to find a shop that will hold my larger items like the Loveys, the blankets, just bigger items that I have that I always sell in my shop, especially here locally in town. The one that I'm currently at is in Sedalia, and so it's an hour away. I love the boutique owner. I was her son's kindergarten teacher, and so that family is very near and dear to my heart. But she just has my small makes in her shop, and I would like to see also bigger makes in my shop. So I did look around previously before, but I just haven't felt like there was a shop that would fit me and what I'm looking for. And so I'm hoping I can find that shop this year to also create sales and another stream of income. Oh, wow, that was a lot of chatting. I'm at 48 minutes of chatting with you guys. I think by the time you see the video, though, some of it will be cut down and it won't be quite an hour, but hopefully you enjoyed this chat with me and the 2024 recap and my 2025 goals. I have a couple other things to share with you in the upcoming vlogs. A lot of you guys asked how I prep for my markets and how I organize my yarn and stuff like that. So also, I know several of you guys wanted to see details of the makes, like how do I embroider my eyes, how do I attach things with sewing and what that looks like. So I will try to do more of that in the upcoming vlogs, especially as I market prep, just giving you a little bit more insight on how I'm attaching things and how what the process looks like when I am following a pattern and doing that to finish the final make. But I think that is all I have for you guys. This became a very chatty recap. I hope that you guys enjoyed this vlog and catching up with me for the recap of 2024, but also my goals for 2025. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in next week's vlog. Bye, guys.